Hello, welcome back to the 3-Hour News Show. Now you are watching our sections of segment, See the Stories. Now we're about to talk about some topic, but before we jump into our discussion, I want to ask my friend Kai, do you remember your favorite teacher in elementary school?
I went to so many schools in my lifetime. But elementary school, yes, I do actually. So she was the one who introduced me to how to read literature in English.
How to read literature.
Yes.
And why was she your favorite?
Because she was very expressive
Oh.
in a caring way, and I was a loner at school. I was always a loner. I was always alone, and she would always be worried, and she would come to me with activities or something that I can do to make
excite
me,
you more.
Yeah, not necessarily to excite me, to make me more comfortable.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, yeah, if you put it that way.
She understood me.
Yeah, learning about some topic or learning about some what do you call it? The things that you encounter at school should actually make you feel comfortable first, for you to be excited to actually learn something. Now, speaking about elementary school, we have in our studio today, I cannot believe that she is a teacher because she doesn't look like a teacher. She doesn't look like my teacher back in elementary school.
What are they supposed to look like?
My teacher back in elementary school, they wore glasses, spectacles, and stuff like that. And here today we have teacher and content creator Galih Sulistyaningra. Is that correct?
Yes.
Galih, thank you so
Galih.
much for being
Thank you
here.
for having me.
So Galih here will share her knowledge and experience in her daily activities as a state elementary school teacher. First of all, in our generation, why would you want to be a teacher? No, it's not like that. I mean, me dealing with kids? No way, Jose.
No, I mean okay, I think you have to rephrase that.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like
it's not bad. It's not bad being
you make
a
it
teacher.
sound like it's a hard job.
Yeah, exactly, because
But
it's a hard
meaningful,
job.
right.
We prompted to do things easier than that because teaching people, it's another world.
Right. Okay, but I think firstly it is really important to highlight that I went abroad. I got my master's degree. That was because I was fully funded by the government of Indonesia. And at that time I held bachelor degree in primary education. So that kind of explains the alignment here. But then I would see this as a real contribution that I could make, that I could do to give back to the country.
Yeah.
And also because I agree that being a teacher is not for everyone. It's not a job for everyone. It is difficult. It is difficult, and also because being a teacher means more than just to teach. You educate, you deal with the kids, you deal with the humans. So you're not transferring knowledge, but you also try to instill humanity values, developing their characters and stuff. And maybe you also have to mention that I am a teacher for the state school, the public school,
for state school.
where I could obviously go to international schools, for example. With my experience, but I believe that quality education is the right for every child, despite their background. So if I were to teach those kids from high economic background, then what about these kids from marginalized groups, coming from low socioeconomic background, and those kind of stuff. So that's what I'm actually doing right now.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. I mean, I understand this is for me such a big thing because I come from a family of teachers and educators, and I know how difficult it is, and at different levels, right? So you mentioned before that you went to graduate school, and it was fully funded by the government. Was this part of your proposal that you would go to state school, or is there a bigger project in your vision? Are you still collecting the data and experience to do something with it?
Yeah, that kind of thing. I wanted to be a policymaker straight after when I graduated from University College London. But then again, I feel like if I never have this kind of experience on the grassroots level, especially being a public education for me is like education is like a public good, not just like private good, right?
Yes.
So if I never deal with this kind of thing on the grassroots level in the public setting, then I would never know what is actually needed
Yeah.
and what is actually the real problem that our teachers are facing, are dealing
Yeah.
with every day. So yeah, my goal is to be a policymaker, but then before that, I have to experience what it takes to be a teacher.
Okay, now that is actually your long shot.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say one thing. It is the best thing that she's thinking about this. She's thinking about this as a big picture. Because there are policymakers who've never done what she's done.
I'm sorry, I tend to be tone deaf.
No offense.
No offense.
You know, sometimes people need to dive into the world that you are in at the moment,
Yeah.
just to understand, like what you're saying, what they need.
That's the beauty of this generation.
Yeah.
Hands-on, wanting to know straight away.
And also, one of the things that I admire is your way of teaching. Let's get into that later. But now, that's a long shot of yours, of being a policymaker. But now, currently, you are being a teacher.
I am.
And what do you like the most? What do you like best being being a teacher, and why?
Right. I believe that to teach is to empower. So whenever I witness the spark on my students' eyes when they discover something that they didn't know before, nothing beats that feeling. You know, nothing beats the feeling of having your children waiting for you at the door, embracing you with their big smiles, asking you, "What do we learn today?" And whenever I didn't go to school, for example, if I miss my study or anything, they would like ask me or ask other teachers, "Where is Miss Galih?" Like, I'm the one being missed and all that. So it's like, it's not like, well, usually if you don't have teacher at school, then you would probably be happy about it.
Oh, I was one of that kid. Yeah, I was one of
But
that kind of children.
not with my students.
Amazing. It is, I just wanted to say, it's a very difficult job indeed, right? So if you can have that connection with your students, it makes me very curious. What does Miss Galih's class look like that your students miss you so much? I mean, other students must be so jealous of your students and they get you as a teacher.
Yeah, so you mentioned about hands-on
Yeah.
thing. So we do that kind of hands-on learning. So for example, in my science class, we usually do experiments and make it fun, and not just fun but also meaningful. We want them to really understand what they're learning and how it applies in their real life, and how it can help them make decisions and stuff like that. So also we have this kind of habit where everyone have to be feel accepted, feel valued, feel included in the classroom, because we also learn about how diversity has to be celebrated, how being different is okay and actually has to be embraced, how being different in terms of color, your skin color, your hair, your height, your body shape is actually okay.
I need a quick follow-up question because I find this really interesting. You are teaching a class that does not look like our classes
No.
back in an elementary school. And I wanted to ask you, because you went to graduate school.
Yeah.
And coming home, you are teaching at a state school. Has it been challenging for you, or is it, what does Indonesian school curriculum currently look like? If you could explain, because here's the thing. Unfortunately, the curriculum, for me, I've lost track because I felt like it keeps on changing. And for now, what does the Indonesian school curriculum actually look like? And I know that you've already had so much knowledge from your graduate school studies. And is it aligned, or does a lot of work still need to be involved to adjust?
Right. Well, speaking of education, it's always complicated because, especially when we're talking about public education in the state schools, like there's so many layers, because not only the central government plays the role, but also the government of the province also they have this their role as well. But talking about the curriculum specifically, actually there hasn't been changes in curriculum for like 10 years. So it's like the newest curriculum give that kind of flexibility and then emancipated learning, if you ever heard of that. that actually free the teachers to design whatever it is that is, like suitable for your own classroom. So we have to kind of really understand what is actually needed for our from our students, and what are they like in terms of their learning pace, their learning development. We really need to kind of tailor our learning and methodology to that. So it's actually, I wouldn't say it's free, but we are like more flexible in a way.
Yeah.
Oh, that certainly has changed.
Now, you were saying about teaching your children at school, your students to be tolerant, to be inclusive and stuff like that. And you were also saying some targets that need to be set in terms of that. But how are the methods? What kind of methods of learning in that sense that you've been using?
I love reading them books about diversity, about social inclusion. So there are very limited kind of like a storybook for children in Bahasa Indonesia. But there's one set of books, of children books, that I find it really useful for me to kind of introduce about diversity in terms of our friends from disability, and also about the inclusion, religion, and all that. I use these books from Connectkin. There's a community.
We had them in the studio.
Kak Tela is also one of my friends.
Small world. I like that.
But also, the reason why I asked you, why would you want to be a teacher? Just because I don't have the emotional capacity. And how do you have that emotional capacity and also overcome your anger and also all those challenges that you've been facing as teacher?
Right.
Because I'm sure that you've been attending to each one of your students' emotional, breakdowns, fluctuations and stuff like that. But how about you yourself?
Right, which is really stressful, by the way, I admit it. But again, I use it as an opportunity to teach my students how to regulate emotions. So whenever I feel like I'm giving up and I feel like too much, I would ask them like together, let's hold our breath, and then blow the candles and those kind of stuff. And I think they understand. And also I believe the power of class agreement. So whenever I feel like they're too out of control, we would go back to that agreement and try to reinstate, try to see if what we're doing right now is aligned with the agreement that we have already made.
See, that's actually consistency there, because kids back in our days, for instance, we know agreements, but we know it in the back of our head, and our teachers never actually refer back to the agreement. They just go like, "You did this wrong. You did this wrong. You did this wrong," and then they just continue that way. They just continue the punishment, but they never actually go back to the consistency, and we never had the opportunity to actually, quote unquote, maybe perhaps defend ourselves or whatever, or just to learn something out of it.
Or negotiating.
Or negotiate. Or
that's the thing.
Other than feeling the blame.
Yeah.
So I think that's something really interesting. Another thing that struck me was one thing you mentioned, that the curriculum leaves a lot of freedom, right, for teachers to really customize what their student needs. So in the hands of somebody who is capable, that would be such a great curriculum. But unfortunately, knowledge is not spread out. Even among teachers, knowledge and experience is not spread out evenly. So
that's a challenge.
I grew up going to different schools in different countries where teachers would be absent because they have to go to conferences where they learn something new. Do Indonesian teachers also have the opportunity for continuous learning here, like locally?
Yeah. So that's actually the problem. But I would say I wouldn't blame the teachers or the efforts that we're trying to make for our teachers to do better. But also when teachers are absent because they have to go to trainings or conferences or actually improving the way they're learning, there should be a system that cover us. probably like teachers, we have so many teachers, and in my school, for example, because I'm like a state school, so not all teachers can teach in state schools, right? So maybe like those teachers that are not civil servant, for example, they should have like a database so that we could cover
For substitute teachers.
like a substitute, substitute teachers. I think that should be one of the solutions.
I mean, by all means, if the teachers get opportunities to be able to learn continuously, it will reflect even better for the next generation.
And even, you know, the thing about being a teacher is also an emotional burden for me personally, because
I love that all you do talk about is your emotional burden. You have
being a
a
teacher-
nephew.
I have a nephew, exactly. I have a nephew. And being a teacher is also dealing with the future of them emotionally as well.
Right.
And with the recent cases that we've been seeing in, let's say, in our country.
Yep.
In Indonesia. Let's not talk about internationally, because it is also one of the problems, one of the immediate problems to be solved internationally as well. But in Indonesia, with so much bullying occurred in school environment, you as a teacher in your own school, I mean not in your own school, in the school that you work for, how can you show kindness and empathy to our students?
Right. And talking about bullying as well, sometimes students don't realize that they're actually doing a violence or committing violence towards their students, because they simply don't know what kind of violences there are.
They don't know the limit.
They don't know the limit. So it's really important for us teachers to also introduce what are the type of violence that could happen, that you could do as a person to other person. So that was what I would do. What I was doing. I taught them about what bullying are, what kind of bullying are, and then so that they have this kind of understanding, and also not only that, we also try to again regulate emotions, again try to communicate with the parents, because they have the role, the important role for their children as well. They have to communicate with their students better, like ask how their day was going and stuff that. And I think sometimes children do like bad things to their peers just because to get our attention, or maybe because they are lacking of it. Right. So we actually have to listen what is actually going on in their life at the moment.
So I have a daughter who is in elementary school, and I want to be honest, it must be very challenging because there must be a lot of noise in the class. But come when something happens and the child reports it to you,
Right.
what is the process for you?
What is the follow-up?
Yeah, because here's what a lot of times seems to happen, and I think we've experienced that in school before, is that whenever something happens to us, we go to the teacher, but there is no solution, and then there's no punishment or no nothing towards the bully, or it doesn't make us feel safer, because we see that they're, maybe they get like a small, like, don't do that again, but hello, they've been doing this, So what in your consideration is fair, and how do teachers actually handle this? Because I have a daughter who is in elementary school, and I'm really trying to relate to a teacher who sometimes don't really listen.
Right. That's a challenge, because especially if it happens during the lesson, so we have to cater to other students as well. So what I'm doing usually, I would wait until all students are gone. So I would just have these two students, for example, if there are only two students committing the whatever crime it is. So I would have them to speak one by one. Like I need to listen to both of them, but privately in a private room, in a safe space, right? So I have to listen carefully, not interrupting them, trying to connect their version of the stories, and then after that I would ask them like, what kind of person do you actually want to become? So usually when I ask that kind of question, there's this a moment of reflection that they would do, and they would admit what they're actually doing. So usually they would say, well, I want to be this kind of person and da 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 da. And I realized what I did to my friend did not reflect that wish that I want to. So it's always about the question. So I never judge them. I never kind of like label them or sort of, I don't know, like, you know what I mean, right? So I try to listen, and then I try to come up with the questions, reflection and stuff like that. So I don't want to say it as a punishment. I would say it as a consequences. So, okay, so if you do that and you understand that it's a mistake, it's something that you shouldn't do, then what should you do to reconcile?
So you actually tickle their logics and also their way of thinking, in a sense that they could actually realize on their own without being reprimanded.
Right. That's what I was talking about.
Wow. Now that is something it's quite difficult.
Well, we wish that we would be in elementary school in this day and age. We went through a very different one, and I think it also says about the results of the children, right? We talk about gentle parenting, gentle teaching, and things like that.
Positive discipline,
positive learner-centered things, right? So it's. Do you actually? I mean, for me, bullying is it's a big topic, and it's difficult for every teacher because you can't always be on top of you cannot be a helicopter teacher and see everything that they do, right? But how do you deal with something that happened completely outside of your radar? It's still in the school premises, but you had no idea it's happening.
That's the challenge. That's as if like everything has to be blamed
on the teachers,
or the schools. But again, if that's still happening inside the school, for example, that would be a challenge, because especially if we don't have CCTV or things like that, right? So yeah, I think having this, what is it, like a conversation between the students that are doing it is really important. And I also want to highlight the importance of not like judging them, like not
putting them in such a
the blame.
In such a hot seat.
Right.
Such a hot seat. All right, but one of the things that caught the attention of public about you, Galih, is also about your methods of teaching. And See the Stars will continue after the break, and let's highlight on that about Galih in the experiment. So do not go anywhere.